a pleasant Sunday. Welcome to Lone Star Park at Grand Prairie. Alongside Rick Lee, I am Jim Byers. Thanks for joining us today, developing into a nice day here for the races, but it has been wet for as long as I can really remember around here. So we are off the turf once again, and the main track muddy. But at least the track was unsealed when I came downstairs. I don't know if it'll stay that way, but we've seen a sealed racetrack, I think, all week as well.
Yeah, I think they think it dries out a little quicker that way. But, yeah, I did see the forecast, though. Next week, sunshine every single day.
Good.
So we're going to get a little reprieve next week.
That's important because we do have off-the-turf races again today and a few scratches. So let's get right into it. We have a lot to talk about. There's minimal off-track experience for the runners in the first race. Maiden claimers going a mile on the main surface. Sorry, I have cobwebs or something crawling across me. Scratch the 1 Wears Fredo, scratch the 4 Infinite Jet Setter, and scratch the 7 Solar City.
Yeah, and the 6 Heliochrome is 3 to 5 on the board at the moment, and deserves really strong favoritism from trainer Steve Asmussen's stable. A lot of angles going in his favor, even though it's on the main track. He's dropping out of maiden special weight races for the first time in his career. He's making his third start after a long layoff. He's got really good early speed. His one race on the main track was at Del Mar, where he finished 6th, but he set really fast fractions on that day. So to me, that was a deceptively good race on the main track. So, you know, to me, he's going to be very difficult to catch in here. The 8 Little Chief is my next selection. Was forwardly placed at Oaklawn April 18th for Broberg in a maiden claiming race on that day, too. That Steve Asmussen beat him on that day as well with a loud trick. But anyway, finished 3rd, making his second route start. He is very lightly raced. I could see him sticking around for a big piece of this. And then Cowboy Ridge is my next selection, who has had a couple, solid sprint races and maiden special weight races, admittedly restricted to Texas breds. But he was forwardly placed in those. I'd expect with his rail post position for Jimenez to kind of send him away from there. And he'll last as long as he possibly can.
And not that it ever is a bad thing. It normally is a good thing, but being forwardly placed and inside yesterday was not a bad thing. Not everybody won that way yesterday, but and like we were talking before we came down, it's usually a good thing to be forwardly placed and inside versus 4 wide and slow, but that might suit him well. I didn't find a way to get Cowboy Ridge in my picks, though, but Heliochrome, you said it all about him. My second pick is a horse that I really honestly didn't love last time, but he took a lot of money. That's the 10 Oswald Cobblepot. This horse went from 70 to 1 and a halfway decent 4th in early April on the lawn sprinting at Houston to a 2-turn race here opening night. He took money that night. He was 5 to 1. He didn't have a very good trip. He was rallying. He was wide in the upper stretch, and then he made a very, very quick you would have gotten a ticket on I-30 for this type of a lane change that he made, and he slammed into a rival. Now he picks up David Cabrera today. That's an interesting development. I just have a feeling that Clinton Stewart may have a runner that can compete here. Little Chief, my third choice. And one other note, Mula Omega is picking up Relu Gutierrez in this race. Relu's about to go on a suspension for a riding infraction, but he is picking up this mountain. Mula Omega is another one that might show some speed. Second race. Texas bred fillies and mares, non-winners of 2 in this one. And the top 2 choices on the morning line here are the only 2 3-year-old fillies in this race. And I'm thinking early May, it's still worth pointing that out. I mean, I'm still not in love with taking 3-year-olds against older at this time of year unless they just stand out so much you can't.
Yeah, I think the 3, that's a lot of bling, deserves, a slight edge. I thought this race was very difficult. Was stake placed earlier this year, February 27th at Houston. A badly beaten 3rd, but still 3rd in a stake. Went in the bar last. Did not run particularly well there at 3 to 1. So they went into an entry-level allowance. Austin Gustafson, the trainers, had a really good last 2 years. The horse was relatively close to the pace, beaten 5 lengths. Now plunges down into a non-winners of 2 for 7,500. I just think that class relief, combined with a really nice workout here at Lone Star Park, gives her maybe a slight advantage. The 7, Clipper Cove, Frank Lucarelli, claimed this horse off of Steve Asmussen on March 31st at Houston out of a maiden $5,000 race. The horse drew off and won by 9, this filly did, after setting a pretty slow pace. I do like the fact that Lucarelli shows 29% first off the claim, and that's a pretty good sample size, 41. So when he claims them, he tends to spot them very well. And Clipper Cove, off that last race, highest last race Spire figure, obviously can repeat. And then I went with the 8, Head Over Boots, who was a 5-length maiden winner at Houston, went into a race similar to this one, Texas bred non-winners at 2 for $5,000 at 5/8 of a mile, and finished second. So that was a pretty nice effort. It just hit me the running line as I look at Head Over Boots. You don't see that much. 2 back, then the mid stretch, 6.5, then back to 2 back. I always wish I watched the replay when I see a line like that.
Yeah, that can indicate. Yeah, that's an odd running line.
That is an odd one.
It could indicate that there was something going on in the race that isn't visible on the PPs that affected the margins. Yeah, that could indicate a lot of things. That is interesting. I didn't actually notice that because I really didn't like this mare all that much. I used her 4th. To me, I thought her and Lady Fly Like Jet were kind of the same, and I leaned toward Lady Fly Like Jet as a 3rd pick over her. But, yeah, I'm with That's a Lot of Bling as well. I mean, she ran reasonably well against much, much better. Second-time blinkers. Clipper Cove, I can't get the image out of my head of her debut last June. I mean, Asmussen had her, and I think she had been working a hole in the wind, or at least working impressively. And, man, you talk about a disappointment. I know she lost action and was checked at the 3/8, but she was doing zip at that point in the race anyway.
Yeah.
One of the most disappointing maiden debuts we had all last year. And eventually found a field she could beat. Not only that, she throttled them last time. So, I don't know.
Well, that 23-second opening quarter may have helped Clipper Cove to get down there at Houston.
On to the 3rd. This is an interesting race. I really wrestled with this one because I really wanted to pick Rosie Jane on the inside because I think she's getting better for Asmussen. This is an interesting Texas-bred allowance, but ultimately I just had to go with the older mare Zerelda.
Yeah, I went with Zerelda, and I made her, as you can see, a pretty short price, 6-5. She took 13 months off. That's about the time that the COVID-19 hit. So I think she took a year off from COVID.
So. She opted out.
That is what it looks like. She's off from March, and then comes back this past March. Runs okay in the Yellow Rose. Obviously, that did a lot of good for her because she came back in the Blue Bonnet April 22nd right here at Lone Star Park opening night and finished second behind She's Our Fastest, who is a really exceptional, mare, Texas-bred mare. So that was a really good race. If you look back in her past performance lines, she was a pretty nice horse competing in stake races earlier in her career. So it looks like Matt Hebert, who I've mentioned many times, really underrated young horseman. I think he's got her right. The 1, Rosie Jane, I'm like Jim, getting good now. Maiden special weight win by nearly 5. Returns April 1st and a 1 other than allowance down at Houston and breaks dead last, 4 wide, and still ends up winning. So the 6 1/2 furlongs probably going to do her some good. And then let's go to the 5, G She Sparkles, one of Jim's picks, I think, on opening weekend.
I did have her.
Yeah, I really thought that her best days were way behind her. I thought that she's a good 2-year-old, a decent 3-year-old. I thought her days of winning were over. Jim was right. And she had that nice win, but once I put a horse in the grave, I can't pick him again.
Well, that's kind of like me and Clipper.
So.
That's kind of like me and Clipper Cove. I just can't get that image out of my head. Got a lot of horses like that from yesterday, actually, that I'm going to have to dig out of the Jim's list, not the stewards list or the vets list, but the Jim's list.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I wasn't the only one that liked her last time. No. She was 17-10 in the wagering. I was a little surprised she was that short a price. But, yeah, I mean, she loves Lone Star Park. I took her 3rd. I don't have much to add. The only thing that concerns me a little about Zerelda, and the only reason I almost picked against her, she kind of runs the same race every time. And it doesn't matter whether it's against optional 25,000 claimers or the really good fillies in the Blue Bonnet. She kind of runs the same race. But I think if she does that today, I think she's still liable to just obliterate them. So we'll see.
Yeah, she rarely gets to run in Texas-bred allowance races. Every time she's in with Texas-breds, it's a stake. And then when she's run in an allowance race, it's against open allowance. This is like the softest spot I think she's seen in a long time. And I expect her to win at relatively short price.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. One thing about Lane Luzzy, he won 4 yesterday. He's riding Zerelda here. And Lane won his 4 yesterday with 4 different trainers, 4 different connections. I mean, it's hard to win any race, and it's really hard to win 4. I don't care if you're winning 4 for Broberg or 4 for Asmussen all in one day, but to win it for 4 different connections is quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
On to the 4th. Off the turf, mile and a 16th. Scratch the plain 1, Shakara. Scratch the 2, My Heart Sings. Scratch the 5, Amandrea, and the 6, After Red Sun. Amazing ride. The 7 gets in. So, and now will probably be a fairly heavy favorite.
Yeah, and Steve Asmussen saw this 7 days ago. Obviously, he watches the weather, entered Amazing Ride, main track only, and he gets his wish here. A really nice allowance win at Remington, closing out 2020, going 1 mile. Last couple races, second place finishes at Houston, decent performances, but now, she's in with horses that are, off the turf type horses. So amazing ride. I mean, she's clearly the one to beat in here, though I don't think she's a cinch. I mean, I'm going to be honest there, but she deserves favoritism at least. Good Fight is my next selection. Just a good dirt race at Remington Park in November. Finished, a couple positions behind Amazing Ride back then. Since then, though, her turf races are better now than they were preceding that one dirt race, which means she's a better filly now than she was the last time she tried the main track. So that's why I think she's got a legitimate chance to win this race. And the 8, Frosty Flirt, who won on turf last time out. The main track races don't look near as good as their turf races. So to me, I got to pick something third, and she's the one.
I actually moved her up to second. I was intrigued by that turf race last time. I know this race isn't on the turf. After Amazing Ride, I wasn't quite as enamored of Good Fight, although, I mean, you make a good case for her. But I went 7-3-1A. The one thing about Good Fight I will point out, I mean, she absolutely lost all chance at the start of her last race. She reared, broke in the air, was dead last, was way back all the way around. I mean, she was even way back in the upper stretch. Wound up finishing, 9th, got past 3 rivals. I mean, just draw a complete line through that. And her other races were pretty good. I don't know. I think I lean toward Frosty Flirt as the second pick only because I think she'll be a little more forwardly placed.
Mm-hmm.
On to the 5th. Maiden Special Weights. State Breds, 1 mile. There is a scratch out of this one, and I was really looking forward to seeing the 7, Mrs. Crinkles. She had stretched out to 1 mile on turf and ran pretty good pace setting second last time, but she's out. And this race still, the line is interesting because you have a 2-1, 9-5, 5-2 on the original line. And so 3 short prices, but a mixed bag as far as, obviously they're fairly evenly matched.
Yeah, when I went over this card again earlier today, I actually liked the horse that I picked. It's my money, too. I actually feel a lot better about her than I did 7 days ago when I did the line. She was beaten a neck 2 starts back. Her 2021 debut sprinting. You can see a really nice rally, beating only a neck. Iram Diego was aboard on that day. He's back aboard today. They went in the bar last. Totally an even effort from 7th to 6th to 5th. It didn't make up a whole lot of ground. Went to the pedigree. It's all route on the female side, and some decent, useful route horses, all of them, including the dam herself. Braidster was a Grade 1 winner at 1 mile and an 1/8. He was a great miler on the main track, but he definitely could carry his speed around the ground. And just the more I looked at her pedigree, once I looked up the pedigree and that really good race at Houston sprinting with Diego aboard, the rest of these just haven't shown a whole lot. The 4-horse Airline Drive, who could end up with favoritism, has hit the board in 7 of 10 races. It's Steve Asmussen. Broke a little sluggishly last time out with a nice little finish there. Last year at Lone Star Park, did finish 3rd in a route race and this at this same exact level, but has had 10 chances. I think we know what she is at this point in time. And then the 6, Lumberjack Leslie, somewhat like it's my money too. A couple decent sprint races, finishing up, pretty well. Pedigree, Bradester, the same dam as the 5. The barn change. Scott Young's a really good horseman, and I know Alan Milligan has won a training title at Oaklawn Park. I always get nervous when horses run and they change barns, even if it's a good trainer to a good trainer, a weak trainer to a weak trainer. Man, unless horse is in real bad form, I just don't like trainer changes very much.
Yeah, and it's not like this horse had a layoff and a long layup period, and they said, well, this year let's give him to somebody else. This horse ran a little over a month ago. So, yeah, that's interesting. I'm also interested, and I needed to research this before I bring it up, but Alejandro Baldiez Jr., there was a very, very good quarter horse jockey named Alex Baldiez.
Right.
I wonder if this could be his son. I don't know. I'm curious about it. But nonetheless, this is a race where in about 2 hours I'm going to be kicking myself, possibly. Because I vowed this year not to pick horses like Airline Drive. We know what she is. She's not a sprinter. She's never done much on the turf. Who knows if she can do anything on the main track. At her best, she's probably going 2 turns, which she gets today. Somebody always beats her. But I picked her anyway. So I'm just thinking maybe today's the day. I don't know. Originally, I had Mrs. Crinkles second and your filly third. I like your pick now more after hearing you describe it. So I'm going to go 4, 5, 6, and anticipate congratulating you after the 5th race. But we'll see.
No, they got to run the race.
This Amante de Serra is a question mark for me. Claimed away from Pish last time. Took all kinds of money. I didn't really like her. I'm going to be honest. I didn't like her on opening night. I think I used her 3rd or 4th. Didn't really run well. I didn't think her first race was that good. But watch her jump up and surprise me today, too. But there were a bunch of them in that race I really didn't like. On to the 6th. 7/8 Texas bred claimers. I had a hard time deciding here. I know you went with Galactica. I went with Shot Soft. I might be congratulating you again.
Didn't you go to Shot Soft? Or you mentioned her last time on April 24th here. I remember
That's because he's the full brother to Super Mason that I blanked on Super Mason's name.
That's right. Well, this is a tough one between the top 3. Maybe a 4th could win. I don't know. I had a tough time with it. Shots Off, who I picked second. I think he's going to make the lead in here. And he's in good form right now. 6-length winner, 3 races back at Houston. Obviously, he likes a wet track as well. I went with Galactica, Diodoro. He claimed this gelding, 4 starts ago. Didn't run well first start for him. Gave the horse a long time off. Went to Oaklawn. Obviously, he thought this horse could compete there, or he kept him in Houston. Ran a bad race. Went down to Houston then. Ran at this exact same level. Texas bred 5,000 and just easily won. Now the track he likes best. 4 wins here at Lone Star Park for Galactica. The work since that win looked pretty upbeat. 35% winning trainer with Vasquez aboard. I just feel like Diodoro's probably got this horse where he needs to have him, so I went there, not with a lot of confidence, but I'm with him. Best Little Man, the 6, is my next selection, who likes a wet track. His best races look plenty good enough at Houston for $30,000 open. He only got beat a neck, if you can excuse the last couple of races, but he'll be forwardly placed. Easy to make a case for Best Little Man.
Yeah, he ran such a poor race here last week. It's hard to get that out of my mind. But nonetheless, I went with Shot Soft only because that Algebra race I think was pretty good. Algebra was full of run that day and was very impressive. And this horse did make up some legitimate ground late. Maybe he'll like the 7/8, even though he is 0 for 4 at the distance. Giving him a little bit of a shot. I mean, not a shot, but I'm giving him the nod. Galactica I have a lot of respect for. The only thing that concerns me a little about Galactica is he doesn't ever seem to run 2 races alike. And I just don't know if he can follow up on that March 3rd race. He's had some time off, though, and so he's also been working very, very regularly. He hasn't raced in 2 months, and yet he's got a really nice string of work. So that seems a little odd that they wouldn't have been able to find a race for him. But I don't think that's a positive or a negative necessarily. I just think it's interesting. So I went 1-4-2. I'm throwing Cowboy Bling in as a turnback option. as a third pick. On to the 7th. I thought this was very wide open. We're off the turf on this one. 5/8 of a mile. Scratch the Plain 1 Triple Creek and the 1A Get a Load of This. So both entry mates have declined to participate and scratch the 7 Kaye Kingpin.
Yeah, the 2 Yes He Can. I picked him, and then when I got up here and got the scratches, Get a Load of This, then I thought, I made the right call. Because Get a Load of This, to me, was the only horse who could get in front of this one. And maybe he couldn't anyway, but now Yes He Can at 5/8 of a mile. It's hard to believe he's not going to get to the top and be tough to catch. He wins for $30,000 impressively in January at Fairgrounds, and that turned out to be a key race. 3 horses came out there to win. Then he wins in optional claiming 2 other than at Fairgrounds. He's been given some time. On March 20th, he works a fastest of 67. I know horses that are really quick, they tend to work fast half miles, so I'm not saying that's a reason to like the horse. But the scratch, you get a load of this, and his really good form he's in right now, I mean, he's the one to catch. The 8, About Our Time for Broberg, he also comes out of a nice win here at Lone Star Park, April 24th. Optional $40,000 race, so he takes actually a slight drop, you could say. In the money, 4 of 9, but has never won on a wet track, so that's a little bit concerning. And then let's go to the 4-horse JC's Nightcap, who again has tactical speed, a good record at the distance, especially on the main track. He's one of those that looks like he's fine on turf or dirt, and I expect him to work out a really good trip under Stuart Elliott.
You know, if this race turns out the way the last race did yesterday, you are guaranteed to win. I mean, it's an absolute guarantee. You had a horse in the last race. There was some speed scratched out of it. Mm-hmm. The horse was too fast going 5/8 for the rest of the field, Tis Magic, and looked like a winner quite literally every jump of the race. Yes, He Can might turn out that way. The only things that I leaned against him, and I'm trying to beat him here, which hasn't been my lick this week for sure. He hasn't fired fresh the 2 times he's come back from little layoffs. When his career debut, he was way up the track, and then he had a little layoff last year and came out on a muddy track here, and it was okay. But so I'm wondering if he's going to fire fresh. I'm sure he probably will. But I'm going to try to beat him with Tin Badge. This horse isn't necessarily much of a sprinter typically, but you know, it does look like he can main track sprint. I mean, he beat a field of Iowa breds back in June at Prairie, put up a big number, romped over them. He's not going to be able to do it in that style here today. I like that bullet work on the 27th. I like the fact he picks up Cabrera. I don't know how they determine these wet track numbers, but I know that 270 seems like a pretty poor number. Mm-hmm. So, all in all, I'm prepared to congratulate you for the win in race 7. But I went 5-2-6. I don't know about Our Time. He was on the wrong lead through the stretch. That was a nice win here opening week, but he's coming back pretty fast.
Yeah, this Tin Badge horse, Prairie Meadows opened last night. He's an Iowa bred, and I really felt like he's here because they think he's better on turf than dirt. Because his 2 turf races are really good.
Yeah.
So they kept him here. Maybe they're going to just leg him up, give him a good sprint, and maybe send him to Iowa, but I really feel like he's a turf horse and he's going to stay here.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't bode well for him today if I'm correct on that. But
well, you've been correct all week, so I don't see that necessarily changing today. On to the 8th. 1 mile. Non-winners of 2. I don't see a lot of speed in this race. And take out the 1A Englander. You know, we draw 7 days out here, and that can lead to some unusual things, including Englander on the 25th of April got claimed. He's not even with Broberg anymore, so there was no chance he was going to run.
Yeah, and I flipped my top picks in the program because I liked Englander. So now I got Dream on Me Baby as my top selection, who won around 2 turns, breaking his maiden on a wet track in November, winning quite convincingly. Fast forward to his last race, Broberg had him at Houston, 7/8 of a mile, and then non-winners of 2. Claimer, much like today's condition, he broke dead last of 13. Finished up okay. Now back around 1 mile, which definitely appears to be his best distance. A good bullet workout at Louisiana Downs. Since then, Asmussen claimed this horse for himself, and looks like his best race should be good enough. The one I'm sticking with. The one for second, Conative, or Is that the pronunciation of that?
I think so. I don't really know what that word means, in all honesty, but that's how I'm going to say it. Or I'm going to look it up first. But
I hate to put you on the spot.
No, that's what I've been thinking in my head about it.
But this horse was claimed by Broberg 2 starts back. Ran, you could say, over his head. He just didn't run a good race at Houston. But his previous races, whether you're looking at dirt, wet, turf, all those races beneath the last race look good enough to be very competitive in this race. And, Broberg, he wins here, often, so I got to respect the horse. And the 5, Miss of Time, is my third selection. A couple recent allowance races where he put up competitive numbers, especially the March 4th race. I mean, a 68, I would take my chances on that winning this race. And it gets a rider switch, which I think might help in this situation. And there's not a lot of early speed in here, as I remember going through it the first time. So I'd expect Miss of Time to be probably much closer. And he's got pretty much a hustling rider on him now, too. Yep. I think they'll try to send away from there.
Yeah, I mean, anticipating how the pace of this is going to develop is odd. I'm with Dream on Me, Baby. I went Gold Account, the 2 horses, a second pick. I have a feeling this horse might lead early. Who knows? I mean, he's got the rail. He picks up Cabrera this time, comes in from the fairgrounds. First time for trainer Terry Oaf. His time form number is not very high, but, who else is going to make the lead? Maybe the 3 Big Mac Daddy, who's my third pick, was forwardly placed in a sprint last time, so he could find himself somewhere in front for Todd Fincher. Conative, I did use 4th. My note for Conative, who is very shy about winning, he's 1 for 22 in his career, is what's his level? He needs a level. He's been with a lot of barns. He's been in Keeneland allowances. He's been in cheaper non-winners of 2. He's been in for 12-5. What's his level? What is he? I think this is probably about his level, but I used him 4th. On to the 9th. A semi-rare 9-furlong race for us on the main track. $20,000 claimers. Scratch the 7. Nope, that's the wrong race. Sorry. No scratches out of this one. I had my pages flipped.
Well, that's good that we don't have one. The 1 Secret House is my top selection here. I really believe he's a wire-to-wire danger in here from his inside post position. Used to off tracks. Oaklawn had several wet track days, as they usually do. He ran really well in the mud against better than these. And then his most recent start, April 16th, that race turned up really strong, and he ran an improved race. He actually made it to the front, held on into the very end for $30,000. It's worth noting, it's not in italics because it just happened yesterday, but Cat Daddy won again at Oaklawn yesterday, beating a really nice field. So that he pulled off another upset. So he was beaten by a very nice and sharp horse in Cat Daddy. So I just think Broberg Secret House is going to be, the one to catch at the minimum. The 2 Comedian is my next selection. Had to go down to the fall. There was races at Keeneland and Churchill Downs on the main track. Really good races. One of them did produce a win. Since then, it's been all turf, mainly at fairgrounds, and those races on turf are actually solid. Broberg has his horse now for the second time. He just looks like a logical threat to me coming late. And then the 5-horse Social Fleet, who has raced well. It's Louisiana bred. He ran Louisiana Classic on December 12th at this same distance, same track condition, muddy, and ran a credible 5th. That race alone, I think, makes him a threat. April 24th here at Lone Star Park, 5/8 of a mile bullet, minute and 3/5. That was on a wet, fast track. So this horse is doing good right now, likes a wet track, and Sarah Delaney, her horses have run really well so far at the meet, and she has this colt spotted, to win.
And this is a different type of horse for her stable because they've been doing very well with Cody Kellenberger going right to the front. And, this horse is clearly a closer. I got him second, actually. We handicap these several days out, and then I review the picks once we get the track conditions and all. And I have Secret House third. I'm not really sure why I have him third in the selections. I had a feeling that someone might be able to go with him, whether it's New Mexico or I don't know who else. But I wrote down a note that I thought there was a fair amount of early speed in this race. But really, Secret House should be able to make the lead. The way things played yesterday, he could be very tough to catch. But I went with Comedian. I think he could get a good trip in here. The last time he did get on the main track, he was a winner. Broberg has both of them in here. I gave Comedian the nod over Social Fleet with Secret House third.
Okay.
Now we have a video for the last race. It involves the favorite Media Mendacity at the fairgrounds. Oh, no, we don't have a video. We scratched that. I'm sorry. But, you know, it would have been an interesting race to look at, but it's not that big a deal because you can see in the PPs, Media Mendacity, by the way, there's scratches out of this race. Let me not get ahead of ourselves. 5, 6, 7, and 12. The 5 White Diamond Sky, 6 Hepzibah, 7 Vicky's Rockstar, 12 Scattered Mist. Jersey Lily, the horse that held on and beat Media Mendacity last time, had a giant lead, 5, 6 lengths in the upper stretch and a long stretch at Fairgrounds. Media Mendacity almost ran her down, had to settle for second. I've got her. There's not much early speed in this race. I just wonder if she's going to have time in a 5-ace off the turf race to unleash that bid. I hope she does because I've got her on top. But
yeah,
we'll
see. if you look at it, she was only 3.5 lengths behind a 45 and 2.
True.
That means that she showed improved early speed in that race. To me, beaten only a neck. It was 6 lengths back to the third place finisher. The previous race was a rout. I look at the Keeneland race, 6 furlongs, fourth, in a field that produced several next out winners. So if you just isolate those 2 sprints, the one at Fairgrounds, the one at Keeneland, a good workout, claimed by Pish last time out, who's 30% first off the claim. And there's not a lot in here. I mean,
no.
She looks, like one that's almost got to win this race. The 10 Hatchet Girl, pace figures give her a slugger's chance for sure. Goncalves is a really good rider. Last race was on turf, easy to excuse that. Previous 3 were all maiden special weight races. This is a maiden 20. Draws outside, which usually is good for a front runner. If the inside's really good today, maybe it won't be so good. But I'm going to assume the track will play fair because it typically does. Hatchet Girl, to me, it's capable and an interesting horse at a price. And the 9. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And the barn's very hot. Caldwell and Goncalves both have been very hot in the early going.
Yeah, and Caldwell had a great Houston meet, so he's having a great year. The 9, I'm coming over. Again, turf race last time out. Easy to excuse. In a maiden 15, was narrowly beaten at 6-1 at Houston, 3 races ago. Has consistent good early speed for Mindy Willis, who is, again, maybe a slight slow start for her, but she's another one who wins races here at Lone Star Park.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm with Media Mendacity, too. My second pick is the 3 No One Cares. This filly showed really good speed on the main track sprinting at Houston last time, and then tucked in on the backstretch. She was started outside in a field of 7, was able to tuck in, kind of chase the pace, got up toward the front end coming for home, and then just really chucked it in late. Took some money that day. It was a shade under 4-1. Not a lot to endorse, but I have a feeling with Gustafson's training, he puts a really live rider on her today. I got to think she might run a little bit more like they thought she was going to run in the first start. So I threw her in there for second because behind Media Mendacity, it's kind of a toss-up. Then I have the 9 and the 10. But My Money Honey is blinkers on. That's one thing we will be announcing. But the 4 My Money Honey coming off a lengthy layoff is blinkers on today. So
yeah, the No One Cares is interesting. I mean, showed good speed. Was only 7-2 in a field of 7, though. I mean, it wasn't 7-2 in a field of 12.
That's true.
However, again, on the flip side, because horse racing is always a puzzle, Cabrera and Gustafson 36% when they team together. So obviously, when Gustafson thinks he has a horse that is spotted to win, Cabrera ends up in the saddle. So that's also, I think, a plus.
And theoretically, Eckleberry, in theory, would be available to ride because he's not named on anybody else in here. It's not like there's a Broberg in here or something that he's going to ride. So maybe Gustafson thought, let's try a different rider, or we got the chance to get Cabrera, why not? But, yeah, that's a good point about the 7-horse field. But, we'll see how it goes. I've been more willing this year to give horses that have only 1 start or even 2 a little bit of a break if they didn't run well, especially if they were bet. If they're not bet in their debut and they don't run well, then – but so we'll see. Well, we're capping a really good week for your picks. So good luck to that. I don't think you need me wishing you good luck because your picks have been very solid all week. I will look to get back on the beam myself, and in the meantime, we'll look forward to what's hopefully going to be a really good Sunday.
Yeah, well, you opened up on me the opening week, you know.
We had a good week. I did the first week, and you've had a really good week the second. It does tend to even out a little bit, or at least come more back into an equilibrium.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been experiencing this week for sure. So, all right, well, best of luck. And by all means, best of luck to your selections. Enjoy the day.